Are you starting graduate school this year and want to maximize your time during your experience? In this video, I share with you 9 things that I wish I knew before I started my PhD. What's up guys, my name is Ivan Valdovinos, and on this channel I provide tips, tricks, advice, and strategies for your graduate school applications. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. The first and probably most important thing you need to do when you start your PhD is you need to find your support network. This support network does not have to exist in your program or at your institution. It can be really anybody, but I suggest that you find someone who is going through a graduate school program as well, because it's going to help you, not only academically, but also personally and emotionally. When I was a graduate student the first time when I did my master's at Harvard, I did not have or felt comfortable with people in my cohort or at the school, and so I sought out support from my peers from my undergraduate education. And the reason why is because during my undergraduate education, I was part of a program called the Ronald D. McNair Achievement Program, and it's a cohort-based program. So I had a group of students that were going through a similar experience as I was, and then they transitioned over straight from undergrad into either master's or PhD programs. And so we would meet on Zoom periodically, usually once a week or a couple times a month, where we would just kind of vent to each other, tell each other about our experiences, and really just, vent and tell each other, graduate school is hard, we hate it, it's hard. We were just kind of venting, and it really did help me get through the experience, because graduate school is challenging and you need that person that's going to help you emotionally, personally, and academically. It is also useful to find someone in your program that is I call it your ride or die, because they're going to really help you throughout your experience. This year I had the opportunity of meeting a bunch of people in my cohort. We only have 12 people, but I was able to connect with a few really closely, and they really truly helped me throughout this year, especially with one of my hard classes. And so I suggest that you find one person in your cohort that you feel comfortable with asking, all your questions, with telling them about your personal challenges and your home environments, things like that, because you need that person to help you get through the year. The next thing that I wish someone would have told me before I started my PhD is to translate my coursework assignments into publishable documents. If you are considering a career in academia, so as a professor and researcher, you're gonna need to publish work in journals, especially in your field, obviously. And so the best way to do this is by translating your graduate school coursework into publishable documents. And this does not mean that you have to publish in top tier journals in your field, because you are a graduate student and your focus should be on learning the content and becoming a better researcher and teacher potentially. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about using your coursework and publishing it in either journals if you can. Maybe you can publish in opinion editorials, so in the newspaper they call them op-eds. You can also publish on blogs in your field. So I want you to get experience with publishing in different domains, because as a researcher, as an academic, you're not only going to be publishing in top tier journals in your field, but you're going to be publishing to the public. You're going to be publishing in op-eds. You're going to be publishing newspaper articles. You're going to be publishing on blogs. You're going to be publishing on different organizations' websites. So I want you to get that experience now, and that way you can also put that experience on your resume when you're applying for jobs, fellowships, or whatever you're applying to. So I want you to think about your coursework not only for a grade and to complete a milestone for your PhD, but also to publish it in different journals, different newspaper articles, whatever it is. That way you're able to put that on your resume and gain that experience. If you are uncertain on how to do this, you can always ask your professor to give you detailed feedback that will make your paper publishable. That's what I did when I was in my first year as a PhD student. So last year I told my professor, I want to publish an op-ed on this topic. Can you give me feedback that will help me with that op-ed? and she did that. She also encouraged me to meet with her so she can kind of guide me on how to go about translating my coursework to a publishable document. So I want you to do that right away as a first-year PhD student. Graduate school is hard, and so you're gonna have ups and downs, ebbs and flows every single day, every single week throughout the whole experience, so 4 to 5 years. So what I want you to do is I want you to remind yourself of why you chose to attend a PhD program. So what is your why? You either want to write it out on, like, let's say a whiteboard and have it, up on your wall. You want to maybe journal and think about your why. It's important to think about your why and reflect on your why every single time, just because it's going to keep you grounded. It's going to remind you of why you're going through all these challenges, all this difficulty in a graduate program, and it's going to keep you going. So throughout last year, my first year as a PhD student, I was reminding myself of why I chose to attend this PhD program, especially when I was facing difficulty. So I always thought about my experiences as a first-generation college student, a low-income student, a Latino male navigating the rural education system in Washington State. And then I also thought about my students who I worked with for 4 years, who were also from marginalized and underrepresented communities. And I thought about them, and I thought about why I went to the PhD, so I can make transformational changes in the higher education space for not only my students, but also myself and my community. So I reminded myself of my why every single time I was facing a challenge, and it really did help me get through the first year. The next tip that I have for you, and something that I wish I knew before I started my PhD program, was that grades don't matter, mastering the content does. So the hardest part about a PhD program is honestly getting in. Once you're in, it is really difficult for you to fail your classes and get kicked out. So I challenge you to ask all your questions. Don't be afraid to be wrong, and try to master the content and push your peers and yourself to think really critically about the issues you are talking about in discussions during your coursework. I want to challenge you on this, because I want you to forget about thinking that you're wrong, or forget about, embarrassing yourself because you asked a quote unquote dumb question. I want you to just get out of that mindset. I know it's difficult, but get out of that mindset and challenge yourself. I want you to master the content, push yourself, push your thinking, push every aspect of your perspective, so you can think differently, and you can think in a different perspective. That way you're able to actually make the transformational changes you want to your field, and it's going to help expand your knowledge base and your skill sets. So I want you to master the content, master becoming a researcher, and also master becoming an equitable teacher. So I want you to do this while you are in your first year and beyond. The next tip that I have for you is to utilize your coursework to explore research interests. The last and final milestone of your PhD is to write a dissertation and defend that dissertation. A lot of the times, graduate students, PhD students in particular, come to graduate school with a multitude of interests. And so when you are honing in on that one interest for your dissertation, it is very difficult. So what I want you to do is I want you to use your coursework to explore all these options. When you have your midterm essays, your midterm papers, your midterm assignments, your final assignments, I want you to explore different aspects of your field that you potentially want to translate into a dissertation. That's what I am currently doing. I'm exploring different options in my field that I really never really thought about until I enrolled in that course. So I want you to do something similar. That way you're able to, hone in on that research topic that you want to pursue as your dissertation. Another thing that I wish I knew before I started my PhD is to find a mentor. So for my PhD program, I was actually assigned a research advisor / mentor. So that was great, because I was assigned someone who matched my interest and who I had actually interviewed with before I started my PhD. And so she really just served as my mentor, and I was just kind of given that mentor to myself. If you don't have that structure in your PhD program, I want you to seek out a mentor, a faculty member in your field, in your department, that can serve as your mentor at least for the first year and maybe even beyond. And the reason why it's important to have a mentor, because they are going to help you get through that first year and the years beyond that. So you want to find someone that not only matches your academic interests, but that maybe also match your personal, ideologies, morals, because you want to find someone who really fits with your lifestyle and who's going to really support you both academically and personally. For me, I wanted someone who had research interests that matched mine, but also someone who was maybe from my same cultural background. So my mentor is Latina. I'm obviously Latino, Mexican. She's also Mexican. She also went to Harvard, and so we have that connection. She also has 10 years plus experience working in my state, even though she's currently working in California and was born and raised in California. So we had a bunch of interests, not only with our academic interests, but also with our personal and backgrounds. And so that really helped me through my first year, because she was able to advocate for me on different things. She was also able to kind of support me through my navigation of grad school in California virtually, and just a PhD program as a whole. So I want you to find a mentor who you feel comfortable with asking any questions that maybe is personal or academic. You also want to join a research team right off the bat. So your first year, your first quarter, your first semester, you want to seek this research team that you want to hopefully stick with throughout your PhD experience. It's important for you to join a research team for a number of reasons. So for one, if you are considering a career in academia, if you want to be a researcher or professor, if you want to work at a think tank, you want to have research experience, and you want to have that experience early on in your PhD experience. You don't have to be publishing articles right away. You don't have to be completing projects your first year, but you want to start gaining that network and that small experience and build up to your next couple of years. So you want to join a research group that fits your academic interests and maybe career goals. So for us in my PhD program, we're actually assigned a research team, and that research team consists of peers that your advisor is mentoring. And so all of the peers in my research team, they actually we all have similar interests. We all are interested in higher education, but particularly with Latinx students. And so that's a plus for us, because we're able to collaborate with each other on different projects. We're able to collaborate with our faculty mentor. We're able to kind of learn from each other and build our research skills through our weekly and bi-weekly meetings with our research team. So I suggest that if your program isn't structured to put you in a research team, that you do find a research team or a research center that you want to work with, not only for your first year, but your 4+ years in your PhD program. Finally, the last tip that I have for you is to learn and utilize your healthcare. Most PhD programs, when you are offered a spot in the program, they either offer you a full funding package with healthcare, and so I want you to utilize that healthcare. This is some advice that maybe I should be taking myself, because this past year, my first year as a PhD student, I did not use my healthcare. And the reason why was because I honestly don't really know that much about healthcare and how healthcare works, and if it's going to cover all the expenses that I need. So for example, the basics, maybe a yearly medical checkup, maybe some dental cleaning, I don't know. And so I was always nervous and scared about using it, because I was going to need to pay money out of pocket, which obviously if you are on a PhD salary, you don't make that much money. So I chose not to use my healthcare this past year for that reason. But this next year, one of my goals is to learn more about my healthcare and how it works and how the healthcare policy works. That way I utilize it at least once a year for like dental services or a medical checkup. Or if I get sick, obviously I want to be I want to be confident that I can use my healthcare to help me if I do get sick. So I want you to learn a lot about your healthcare ask your questions during your orientation. Go to the doctor's office, call the medical insurance, and ask all your questions and see how much money you would have to pay for certain medical, appointments. So I want you to think about healthcare, because I feel like a lot of graduate students do not utilize it, and you do have healthcare through most PhD funding packages. Alright you guys, so that concludes my video on the 9 things I wish I knew before I started my PhD program. I hope you learned something new and that these tips really help you out in your first year or beyond. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section down below. You can also message me on LinkedIn. I will take your personal messages there and answer your questions as much as possible. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.